Welcome to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I am your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Anthony Cervino should be on shortly. And as of course, it's Wednesday, so we've got to have our NFL beat writer, Sam Teets, on to talk about his quarterback power rankings. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. How about you?
All right. Let's start. We'll talk a little NFL news. Jalen Ramsey is expected back at practice, Sam, but he'll be limited. Does this mean he's really hurt?
Even if he is really hurt, I don't anticipate he'll actually suit up for the Jaguars anytime soon. So either way, whether it's real or whether he's just faking it and getting a doctor's note basically to excuse him, it doesn't really matter in my mind because he's not going to play for them again.
All right, another injury. James Washington looks like he's going to miss a few weeks. Washington was on the way to his best game as a pro. Exited Sunday's loss to the Baltimore Ravens in the third quarter after injuring his shoulder. This is a big hit for an offense that already has a lot of issues right now, Sam.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what they're going to do now because they had Deontay Johnson, the rookie, but he hasn't really shown anything yet. Juju Smith-Schuster is good, but you can't really do much with him when you can't throw the ball. The Steelers can't run the ball either, so they're kind of at a loss right now. They are playing the Los Angeles Chargers, who are struggling, so I think they could get a win this week. But not having James Washington as their number 2 receiver could really hurt them.
Spoken like a Steelers fan. From what I've seen, they're probably not going to beat the Chargers. The Chargers look like crap last week. I don't think the Chargers are very good, though, so I think they could stay. I just don't see quarterback-wise where they're going to be able to stay in this game too much. And I don't think they've got the running game to do it either. But we'll see. I'm hoping they lose because I like the Bengals, and I hate to admit that, but that means I hate the Steelers. Next up, Deon Buchanan was released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The linebacker was a first-round draft choice. So I think it's safe to say that was a busted pick.
Yeah, when he was coming out of college, he was hyped up as one of these guys who could be like a combo defensive back and a linebacker kind of guy. He had one of those mixed builds who could do a little bit of everything. And he just never developed into a guy who could do much that was really impactful. He ended up kind of getting benched towards the end of his time with Arizona last year. So really not surprised here that they're moving on from him. Didn't really have much of an impact this year with Tampa Bay anyways.
All right, I want to bring up real quick if anybody wants to call in. Phone number is area code 812-496-0852. That's 812-496-0852. And we will remember to put that number on our Twitter page at Grueling Truth tomorrow so I don't keep forgetting it. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals are off to an 0-5 start, and there's a lot of rumors about possibly trading A.J. Green. Cornerback Drake Kirkpatrick said, bro, that better not happen, period. It better not happen because this team could fall apart. So if they could fall apart and get even worse, what would that look like, Sam?
I don't really know what it would look like, honestly, because you've got issues with that team. You've got issues with coaching so far from the looks of it. They're not getting enough done to win games. I think what they could happen is you could lose the locker room early, which for Zach Taylor as a young coach would be horrible to lose the locker room in your first year like that. To this point, I don't really know if it's about the winning the games as much as it would be about the emotional effect it would have on the players and possibly distancing the coaching staff from the players, which is something as a rookie coach you cannot afford to do.
All right, and 2 days before the Giants play the New England Patriots, actually a day before now, but the quote was 2 days before, running back Saquon Barkley said Tuesday a decision has not been made on whether he'll return from his high ankle sprain. Evan Ingram, who's battling a knee injury, was limited participant in practice on Tuesday. They both could possibly go. My question is, why would you even risk this at this point with two guys that are that important to your future?
Yeah, the Giants really should. I think a little bit of Saquon Barkley is he wants to come back. He wants to be this beast who goes through this injury and gets back as quickly as possible. It's time for the Giants to step in and kind of just hold him back a little bit and say, look, there's no reason to rush through this. There's no reason to come back. This team's not going anywhere. He's got years to rebuild. So there's no point in pushing him back on the field and risking further injury. He is their future. They absolutely need him healthy. So that means not pushing him in a lost season this year.
Yeah, and it is a lost season. I mean, they're 2-3 right now, but the chances of beating the Patriots are very small. Let's go ahead. Let's transition to your weekly quarterback power rankings. Now, number 1, Russell Wilson. 2, Tom Brady. 3, Patrick Mahomes. 4, Deshaun Watson. Watson's up from 9. Mahomes drops from 1 to 3. Brady stays at number 2. Russell Wilson at number 1. You want to explain that one? Because I agree with you completely, and I think that I brought this up last week, so I swung you over to my side.
Yeah, no, Russell Wilson was just really dominant against the Rams this week. I mean, watching the game is probably the best game from a quarterback I've seen this season. Maybe outside Deshaun Watson's week they ended up having on Sunday. But Wilson looked untouchable. He was dodging around pass rushers left and right and then finding players open downfield. He made some incredible throws. He just showed off his pure athleticism and movement without really even needing to run the ball that much, just running to throw the ball. And I thought he did a great job picking the team apart and put together one of the best games of his career and kind of that quintessential game, which is why I consider him to be a future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, number 2, we talk about a future Hall of Fame quarterback. That would be Tom Brady. And the Redskins hung in for a while, but Brady was just Brady. 28 for 42, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and there's not much else to say here. The only question I have with the Patriots is, outside of the Bills, the competition has not been that tough. When it was the Bills, Brady didn't look as good, and the team didn't look as good. So is that any concern?
You always kind of have to be worried about stuff like that, but in the case of Tom Brady, I'm willing to make that the exception to the rule. Brady's been good throughout his career, but there's always players who have bad games. It just happens. For Brady, I don't expect this will be a very difficult thing. I think he'll be fine moving forward. The Bills themselves have a very good defense, but I think when it comes down to it, you can always trust Tom Brady in the end, so I'm not really worried about it.
All right, Patrick Mahomes goes from number 1 to number 3. There's an ankle injury that has to be some concern, which will limit his mobility, especially in the pocket. The Indianapolis Colts, though, my concern here would be, and I think this was obvious, how you beat the Chiefs all along. I just want to know why it took until, partway through the second year for anybody else to really catch on and try this.
You mean running the ball the entire time, keep Mahomes off the field?
Yeah, run the ball and stop their run, because we know Andy Reid will not commit to the run. He never has, no matter who his running back was.
Yeah, I think this is the Achilles heel for the Chiefs, honestly, at this point. And now it should be out there. Now teams should be doing this regularly. The issue is, can you establish the run to your opponent team? Can you not let Patrick Mahomes get out early and throw 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and then you feel like you're behind and you have to pass the ball? That's the biggest challenge for opposing teams. But if you can get out early and run the ball, score a touchdown, and get that run going, the Chiefs are vulnerable, and you can put Mahomes in a difficult situation where he's not going to have those video game numbers.
Yeah, and now over the last 2 weeks, just 1 touchdown pass. So I think there has to be concern there, and my concern with the Chiefs is still Andy Reid and the plays that are called there. Number 4, Deshaun Watson, who put up a career performance. He completed almost 85% of his pass attempts against the Atlanta Falcons, posted a perfect 158.3 passer rating, and 53 points were scored on the Atlanta Falcons. Is this more of how good Deshaun Watson was, or does this tell us just how bad the Atlanta Falcons have become?
I think it's a little bit of both, but Deshaun Watson's had these games in the past. His rookie season against Seattle, he had an incredible performance. He's able to do this and do it regularly. The issue is that he has to deal with the offensive line, which doesn't help him in any way, shape, or form. He's constantly under pressure, but he wasn't sacked a single time on Sunday. It's the only game this season he's not been sacked. And when he wasn't sacked, he had this incredible game. I think this is something Deshaun could do regularly if he was given proper protection and if they treated him like most superstar quarterbacks and gave him that kind of offensive line that really needs to defend him.
Well, maybe an AFC South thing, because Andrew Luck wasn't given an offensive line until after 5 years. When I look at this, though, I actually would have Watson ahead of Mahomes just because what you talked about, because I think Mahomes is rolling with a lot better cast of characters around him. And I think Deshaun Watson is a hell of a quarterback. And if you gave me a choice to start a team and take one quarterback within his first 3 years in the NFL, I would take Deshaun Watson.
I mean, he's got that kind of upside. He really does. He's one of those dynamic players who can move around in the pocket. He's got that ability to shake off defenders and find players downfield. That's what you're looking for, I think, in quarterbacks now, is that kind of, you don't need necessarily to have them run the ball, but they need to be able to move in the pocket and move around enough to find guys open downfield. And I think Deshaun gives you that ability to its utmost potential.
All right, number 5, Derek Carr, which is one I've been screaming about for the last couple of years. I think this guy's a legit quarterback. I don't think there's much around him. He doesn't put up great stats, but he doesn't turn the ball over. He's efficient, and I think he would put up great stats if he had the guys around him to help him with that. But the Oakland Raiders 2 weeks ago beat the Colts in Indianapolis. This week they beat the Bears in London, and I think that people have to start taking notice that Derek Carr is a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of the issues that the Raiders have had over the past 2 years have been pinned on Derek Carr, and that's not really fair. The organization as a whole has not given him the means to win games. And if you look at what he's done, he's leading the league in completion percentage right now. 73.3% of his passes completed this season. He's been very efficient, and I just think he's not getting the credit he deserves, really. Like, everyone's looking to bash the Raiders and bash Carr, and he's been the guy who's taken all the heat for this team for the last 2 years. That's just not fair to him.
Yeah, next up we have Aaron Rodgers, who is benefiting from a really good defense, and Aaron Jones right now. I thought he was mediocre to average in his last game against Dallas. I think he's been mediocre to average most of this year, but I think a lot of this here was when you're missing your best wide receiver, it really cuts into what you can do as a quarterback.
Yeah, and him and Devontae Adams have a really good connection. They've shown up this season so far and done really well. So not having Adams, I think, hurt him. But also, I do credit Rodgers with being able to go out there and get some wins there. 4-1 right now. And this team was a team that's had a losing record the last 2 years. So I do give Rodgers some credit for coming out and getting a couple of wins here. They almost beat Philadelphia last week, too, if not for a late interception. So the team's winning. Rodgers we know he has a lot of talent, but I do think he's not playing to his utmost potential this season.
Yeah, and another guy that I don't think is yet is Carson Wentz. He wasn't terrible, 17 for 29, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, kind of the same stats he put up against Green Bay, at least completions and yards. The defense, I think, was the star, and I still think Wentz is a really good quarterback, though, and the Jets' defense is not terrible, but I expect more from Carson Wentz. I expect more from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, for Wentz, this is the 4th week in a row he's completed less than 60% of his pass attempts, which shows a little bit of the receivers. They do have some injuries, so it's not all on Wentz. But at the same point, I do expect more from him, which is why he's kind of sitting at 7, a little bit outside that. I think we should call it an elite group of quarterbacks. He's kind of outside there right now. So I do want him to produce more. But at the same point, they've won a couple of games. He's doing all right. He's not turning the ball over, so I can't really ding him either. I think he's doing what he needs to do right now with that defense behind him. He's got a pretty good team, so he can win games. But, again, I would just like to see him produce a little more statistically.
Yeah, now Dak Prescott had a great game if it wasn't for the back end of his stat line, which is 3 interceptions. And the thing that would concern me here is when they played the Saints and, in this last game against the Packers, when he's played against good defenses, he has struggled.
Yeah, after a really good opening start to the season, he's had 2 back-to-back games where he hasn't looked like a very good quarterback. He had 0 touchdown passes last week against New Orleans and 1 interception. This week, poured on a lot of yards and touchdowns late in the game, but basically through the first half was completely useless to that offense, didn't really do much at all. And, of course, those 3 interceptions, they probably would have won that game if he didn't throw 3 interceptions. But for me, Dak Prescott, I still want to see one more week. Like, if he does bad again next week, then I'll drop him down on the ratings a lot. But he's had a good opening start to the season. There's still some hope for him to stay up here around that 8th spot. But another bad week, and he'll be looking more at that 15 range.
All right. Matthew Stafford did absolutely nothing this last week, and you still have him ranked at number 9. Can you explain that? I know it was a bye week.
I think Detroit Lions. Yeah. Well, the Detroit Lions are doing better this season than I predicted. Stafford's kept them in games. They do traditionally blow games late in the fourth quarter, but he only has 2 interceptions this year, so he's been fairly consistent. Decent QBR or decent quarterback rating at 102.6. He's done pretty good in my opinion. He moved up this week a little bit because quarterbacks below him kind of had some struggles. I do like what he's doing with Detroit, though. I think that's not a very good team, in my opinion. I don't think it's a very good coach team either. But he still got them at 2-1-1. I think they could easily be 3-0-1. So I do like what he's doing this year. I think he's having a better year than people are giving him credit for.
Well, I disagree because I think that this team is actually pretty talented. They don't have any huge stars, and I think Matt Patricia, last year I thought he did a horrible job. This year he's got more guys that bought in. Maybe it's because he brought in a few more former Patriots. But they face Green Bay and Green Bay this week. They play Minnesota the week after. So I think these 2 weeks are going to tell us exactly where the Lions stand. And I think the Lions are a team that can make the playoffs. I mean, if you go back to my article in May, my 2 teams to shock the world and make the playoffs were the 49ers and the Lions. So that could all fall apart here in the next week or 2. But it looks good so far. Number 10, you got Jacoby Brissett, who did not play. I don't even know if you could say what he did was average, but he won. And he's played well most of this year. I could see why he's at number 10.
Yeah, he's been able to play well and do just what the team needs him to do to win games. Again, this was not his best performance this last week. It was actually probably the worst of the season. But they managed to get that win against Kansas City. Kansas City was undefeated going into the game. So Brissett and the team did just enough to get that win. Of course, I think Marlon Mack deserves a lot more of the credit. And Quentin Nelson, the offensive line, did really well as well. But I'm still holding Brissett up there because one bad week shouldn't make or break a quarterback on this ratings. And like I said, they get that win, and that's what matters.
Well, and the thing is this, when you come in with a game plan to run the ball 40 times, I think it's hard a lot of times for a quarterback to get in any kind of rhythm also. So I'll give him a little break on that also. Number 11, Jameis Winston. Yeah, he had 2 interceptions that were canceled out by penalties, 15 for 27, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think this was actually a poor performance, though, because this is a game where he needed to show up and make plays, and he didn't for the most part.
Yeah, he only completed about 55% of his passes, which they really could have won this game. It was only a 7-point difference. So this was really a winnable game. It would have been huge for Tampa Bay if they got this. But Winston comes out, has probably an average to below average performance, even though his passer rating was a 104.6. That really doesn't reflect in his play during the game. Like I said, there's 2 near interceptions that were just called back by silly penalties. It was a close game, but I think Winston definitely could have made a bigger difference in it. He has played well over the last 3 weeks or so. So that's why he's up here to begin with. I do think if he doesn't improve, though, he's going to fall down the rankings next week. Because they got to get something going there in Tampa Bay. They're playing Carolina next week, and that should be a win, honestly. Even with Christian McCaffrey doing what he's doing, if Jameis Winston shows up, they should be able to beat Carolina.
All right, next up, 12 and 13 are about the same thing to me. Matt Ryan and Andy Dalton, I think they're playing above average. They're just on teams that are well below average right now.
Yeah, starting with Matt Ryan, they could have easily won that game if they had any semblance of defense. If they had been able to stop Deshaun Watson at all, they should have won that game. Because that Falcons offense puts up 32 points. 32 points is probably good enough for a win against most teams. But, of course, the Houston Texans drop over 50. So not much Matt Ryan can do. And Andy Dalton, the battle of the winless teams between Cincinnati and Arizona, this was a good chance for Cincinnati to get their first win, and they just couldn't pull it off. I don't blame Dalton. He had a decent game, but I think the team around him, especially on defense, just couldn't control Kyler Murray as much as they probably should have been able to. So Cincinnati still has no wins this year.
All right, next up, number 14, Jared Goff. He down to only throwing the ball 49 times this week. The Rams have lost their last 2 games in a row. What I saw was Goff looked vulnerable, especially in the fourth quarter when they needed him to make plays. He made a couple nice throws at the end, but there's a lot of stuff that he throws that is a little bit behind receivers. It's hard for them to catch. I still don't buy the Jared Goff thing. I think he's an average guy. And without a big-time running game, he's just an average guy.
Yeah, I think he's an average guy in a system that produces big numbers at times. He's got a lot of talented receivers around him to really help him out with Cooks and Woods and Kupp. He's got good players. But like I said, that running game not being there this year with Todd Gurley is really showing the limits of this offense because they're making Jared Goff throw a crazy amount of times per game. He's on pace to throw for over 700 times this year, which would be ahead of what Ben Roethlisberger did last year. And Ben threw way too much last year. But they've got Goff. They're using him too much, which makes him vulnerable to throw interceptions. And every time he throws the ball more, they're more and more likely to make a turnover, have an issue show up. And for me, I think the Rams at this point are kind of hitting that ceiling to their team. If they don't have that dynamic running game, that all-around offense, I don't think they're going to be able to keep winning games. I think we'll really see what these limits are when they play San Francisco this coming week.
Yeah, I think in the long run we're going to find out this year how good a coach the boy wonder McVay is. Number 15, Jimmy Garoppolo. What they got from Garoppolo this week is what they need to get every week. If they get this every week, the 20 for 29, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, for the season, he's completed almost 70% of his passes, has a QB rating of almost 100. The 49ers are 4-0. I think with all that in there, I know Garoppolo's turned the ball over a little bit more than what you would like, but I think I would rank him around 10 or 11.
Yeah, the 49ers don't need him to do too much. They've got a pretty good defense. Their secondary is actually doing very well. And we saw just what happened when they played the Browns. They absolutely picked Baker Mayfield apart. They've got a decent pass rush with Nick Bosa coming alive a little bit. DeForest Buckner is a beast in the middle for them. And that running game is really what carries them. They're running for 200 yards per game at this point, which is leading the NFL. So if you're Garoppolo, you need to throw for maybe 180 to 200 yards per game and just keep the interceptions down. Like, don't turn the ball over, and you should be fine at this point.
Yeah, because I would actually jump Garoppolo in your number 16, Gardner Minshew, up above Dalton and Ryan. I think Minshew, he had the 3 fumbles. But, I mean, this is still a rookie that nobody had ever heard of that posted a 101.9 passer rating again. Now, the turnover is probably what cost him the game. But Minshew has impressed me so far this year.
Yeah, what I like a lot about him is his movement in the pocket so far. He's been able to move around, have some shifty feet. I think that's what cost him in this game. He might have gotten a little too carried away with the movement, held the ball a little too long, and that's why he fumbled away 3 times. But for me, I do think Minshew is performing at a very good level for that team. They're in games, which is something I don't think I would have anticipated them being after losing Nick Foles. And they're sitting at 2-3, but they could easily be sitting, I don't know, maybe at 4-1. They've got a pretty good team going. I think they can definitely pull some wins off here.
Anthony, you on here?
I am here.
Anthony Cervino from the FF Face-Off. He had some important business to take care of today. So, and no, Rob. Rob from Kentucky on Twitter to send a direct message says, is Anthony Cervino in the mob?
Am I in the mob?
Yeah, I guess you got an Italian
If I was, I
last
can't
name.
talk about it.
Okay, so there you go, Rob from Kentucky. You're from Kentucky. Go back on your date with your sister and leave us alone. All right, we are at number 17 right now in the quarterback rankings, and we're talking a little Kyler Murray. And I would think with Kyler Murray, he got to play Cincinnati, which is why he looked pretty good this week, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray didn't have his best game statistically. He actually had a better game running than he did passing, scored a rushing touchdown. But, Kyler really didn't have to do a lot.
Yeah, Sam?
Yeah, for me, I like Kyler Murray as a quarterback, but there are points and times where I'm wondering how he's being used and whether it's like the offense itself is just not doing enough. So I still have some questions about
and the same thing with, Opie Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought watching this game was kind of like watching 2 NFL teams with 5th grade Pee Wee football coaches running them. Just my opinion.
Yeah, they just need. I think they need to work on how they're using Kyler Murray, just what they're doing offensively more.
All right. Then we got Phillip Rivers, and they have a big game against Pittsburgh. I say it's big because they can't afford to lose it. This offense was not very good. It hasn't been very good so far this year. And Rivers, 2 interceptions, 211 yards. Is he showing his age, Sam, or is this showing the limits to what they have offensively?
I think this is the limits to what they have offensively. I don't think it's Philip Rivers' age. Although he has times in his career where he's just had these bad stretch of games or he's had bad seasons. So for Rivers, this might be one of those years where he's just kind of down. But there's no way you should go in and lose to the Denver Broncos, especially if you're the Chargers, who were a team that people were picking as like a dark horse Super Bowl candidate this year. And Rivers goes in there, throws 2 interceptions, and they end up losing that game, which should have been an easy win.
All right, Anthony, your take on Philip Rivers?
I think one has to do with the other. You know, in the years past, and I've said this a lot this season, Philip Rivers would be able to overcome all of these injuries because Chargers and injuries, that's nothing new. But at this point in Philip Rivers' career, he absolutely needs more help than he's getting, and that's because of his age.
And then we got Lamar Jackson at number 19. And
wow, what a fall from grace.
Yeah, but I think 19 is way too good of a ranking for him, Anthony, because I still think Pittsburgh has an average defense, and they embarrassed. Jackson threw 3 interceptions against them. So I think what we've learned is Lamar Jackson is ready to be a big-time quarterback in the NFL if the Ravens just play a bunch of winless teams. Anthony?
Lamar is certainly regressing since the first couple of games of the year, and he did lose Hollywood Brown for a period in that game last week, but it's to me, Hollywood Brown is not that much different than some of the other receivers they have on the Ravens, like Willie Snead. Like Hollywood Brown isn't there yet to say that loss should significantly impact Lamar Jackson. I think the other teams, similar to what we're seeing with Sean McVay and the Rams, I think the opposing teams are game planning and are ready for Lamar Jackson this time around, whereas last year and early this season against the bad teams, maybe they weren't ready.
Well, I think this, Sam, against the bad teams, he's got wide open receivers to throw to. When you close the windows he has to throw into down, he is not capable of making those throws.
Yeah, and we've seen that over the last 3 weeks. In that time, he's got 4 touchdowns, but he also has 5 interceptions. So he's been throwing more interceptions than touchdowns against the better teams in the NFL. And I don't know how you throw 3 interceptions against Pittsburgh's secondary. I mean, they've had like maybe 3 interceptions.
Yeah, let's face it, this is against Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Those are not like better than average defenses even.
That Pittsburgh defense since Fitzpatrick has been playing well. I don't know why they're not getting any respect.
Because they're not very good. Go ahead. I mean, let's face it, they shut down the Ravens and the Bengals, though, Anthony.
And they played the 49ers pretty well in San Francisco and turned Jimmy Garoppolo over 5 times.
And they lost. So, once again, if you win those games, people will start paying more respect. We'll see what happens against Philip Rivers this week. They may do well against Philip Rivers. And remember this, though, in the NFL, 85% of the teams are not very good right now. So it's not like they're going to have to play a bunch of good teams. So it gives them a shot. Let's go to Kirk Cousins, Anthony. 22 for 27, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. Played better. But the question is, what's he going to do when they play the better teams?
I think the Vikings, as long as they're winning football games, they're going to continue to protect Kirk Cousins. And yeah, Kirk Cousins threw it effectively against the Giants, but he also threw it like 36 or 37 times in the close game against the Bears.
Yeah, I think play calling's an issue in Minnesota, but
opponents is a big issue too. Is who they're playing is how they're going to, whether Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball at more short and intermediate routes, or if he's going to go deep to an Adam Thielen.
All right, next up, let's go, because I'm tired of talking about Kirk Cousins, because I see something that sticks out to me that I have to get Sam about, because Sam's ratings are much better this week. But he's got Teddy Bridgewater at number 22 after 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's now 3-0. Why so low? How can you put Teddy Bridgewater below Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson?
I just don't trust Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I look at the numbers.
Do you trust Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen?
I don't trust anyone in that group, to be honest.
So go with the guy that just threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, but for me, I'm just not feeling it. Like, he's got Michael Thomas to help him out a lot, and for me, maybe if he keeps this up until Breeze gets back, I'll have more respect for him moving forward. But I can't trust Teddy Bridgewater. It's just one of those guys for me that I have issues with.
I do too.
But to be honest,
I think he should be higher than 22, and I have the same issues with him you do. But to tell you the truth, I have the same issues with probably 80% of the quarterbacks on this list to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
So, Anthony, what's your take on Teddy Bridgewater?
I'm not high on
Teddy. We do, but
I'm not high on Teddy Bridgewater. He did have one of the best games of his career this past week. But, the Tampa Bay defense, they were out. They were without one of their starting corners. I think I'm drawing a blank, but I think his last name's Carlton Davis.
Yeah.
Which does set them back. I think Bridgewater's an okay game manager. I don't expect him to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns every week. And a lot of those scores, or at least 2 of them, Michael Thomas was the difference maker.
Yeah, they do have some weapons, plus Alvin Kamara and a good defense in New Orleans. So I think the Saints are a definite Super Bowl contender. Next up, Joe Flacco, who I think Joe Flacco's played all right for these guys. I think 23 is too low for him. I just don't think he's got much help in Denver, Anthony.
Yeah, in the past 2 games, Flacco has played his best football of 2019. Their receivers, their offense isn't terrible when you take in consideration Noah Fant at tight end and Emmanuel Sanders and Cortland Sutton on the outside, and they have 2 really good running backs.
Yep, the O-line
but on the defensive side of the ball, that's what I think is really setting Denver back and ultimately puts the offense in bad situations.
All right, Joe Flacco, Sam.
Yeah, for me, Joe Flacco is more kind of like a game manager quarterback at this point. But he could do enough in certain games to win. Like this past week, they skipped 20 points, and they managed to defeat the struggling Chargers. But for me, I don't think he does enough on a regular basis to get the team to win regularly. So, like, even if they had more pieces around him, and even if that offensive line had something to it, I don't believe he'd be doing enough to make this team a real playoff contender.
All right, number 24 and 25. 24, you got Kyle Allen. 25, you got Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is suffering from not having enough weapons right now, plus he's inexperienced. But Kyle Allen's inexperienced, continues to win, mainly because of Christian McCaffrey. What's your take on Allen and Jones right now, Sam?
Yeah, for me, they're both kind of doing similar things statistically, but the Panthers are having a little more success, and that's because of Christian McCaffrey, like we said. They just have a little bit more in Carolina, which doesn't say a lot about New York because they're both kind of talent deficit in those areas. And for me right now, until they really have some more weapons on either team, for Daniel Jones basically until next year, he's going to sit kind of low on this list. I don't really think he has the option to perform at a terrific level with some of the pieces he has right now.
All right, Anthony, you agree?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think he's playing well, and they're winning games.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones. The Dallas Cowboys should probably have Daniel Jones as their head coach. Number 26, Marcus Mariota. And last week, he looked really good. But since it's Marcus Mariota, Anthony, this week he didn't.
No, and they did get Taylor Lewan back, which I thought would be an upgrade. But when you're going against a defense like the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they stifled Tom Brady, and they're certainly going to stifle a quarterback who's inconsistent like Marcus Mariota. So I think I put it more on the Bills than Mariota. But in that same breath, Mariota is going to exploit the good matchups and struggle in the bad ones.
All right, let's go straight to Baker Mayfield now, Sam. How can you rank him as high as 27?
I like to think there's still some talent in Baker Mayfield, but I have to say I did enjoy watching that game.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you this, and I explained this before. I hate the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I cheer for anybody that plays Ohio State. When Oklahoma beat Ohio State and he planted that flag in the middle of Ohio Stadium, I actually loved that. I think I loved it even more, though, watching him getting bit-slapped by Bosa and then Bosa acting like he was planting a flag.
I mean, yeah, that was awesome. I mean, both and Richard Sherman both had things to say about Baker Mayfield after the game. And so for me, Baker Mayfield had a 13.4 passer rating. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback have that bad of a rating.
Oh, you haven't been a Bengals fan then, because David Klingler and Achilles Smith used to do it all the time.
I guess I missed that part. But
you did.
Mayfield's really had a bad year. I mean, he had that one decent game against Baltimore last week, but he's been pretty downhill the entire season. He's leading the league in interception with 8. So I don't know what the Browns have to do to fix this. I mean, it's typical Cleveland Browns at this point. I don't know how you clean this up.
Yeah, and the big question now is who wins the AFC North, Anthony?
Probably, I mean, it's safe to say the Ravens, but all these teams have holes, and I keep saying it. Even the Bengals still have a chance.
No, they don't.
The Bengals still have a chance.
Anthony, will you
stop?
Steelers
on their 5th quarterback still has a chance.
Anthony. I don't care if the Steelers are on their 10th quarterback. That 10th quarterback will still put up 28 on the Bengals defense. The Bengals don't have a chance.
Okay, I'm just saying.
It's the Bengals. Just like the Browns are the Browns, the Bengals are the Bengals. So I would say
I'm just saying the division is that wide open.
It is.
Where anything can happen.
It is. And the concerning thing is Cleveland blew out
Baltimore. If Cincinnati ends up winning this division, you got to stop calling Zach Taylor Opie.
No, I don't, because if they win this division, they'll win it at 6-10. And that's possible. I mean, I think this. I think it's very possible you could have a below 500 divisional winner in this division, Sam.
Yeah, I think this is one of the worst divisions in football, which is a pretty weird thing to say, thinking about where it was basically 2 years ago, where you almost always had 2 playoff contenders in that division, and now it looks like no one really wants to win it. I was thinking Pittsburgh might get back in it. If they beat Baltimore this last week, they'd be pretty close to being
They
in
would
the league.
be in it.
So,
they'd be right there. It'd be a 3-way tie for first place, wouldn't it? Everybody at 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. This division it's going to be hard to watch, I believe, for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, Anthony, how many games do you think the team has to win that wins this division?
I mean, 8-8, 7-9. I mean, 7-9, and we've seen it before with the Seahawks, right?
So 7-9 would mean the Cincinnati Bengals would have to go 7-4 to have a chance to win the division. That's not happening, Anthony.
I'm just all right.
Okay. Opie Taylor will make sure of it. Next up, number 28, Chase Daniel. And actually, Opie Taylor looks like he could be Jason Garrett's brother. So, just saying. Chase Daniel completed 73% of his passes. I would say this, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I don't think him being the quarterback really affected this game that much, because aren't those the numbers Mitchell Trubisky usually gives us, Anthony?
What was the question about Trubisky?
I said Chase Daniel I don't think cost them the game here, because these are about the numbers Mitchell Trubisky usually puts up.
Either way, no matter who's at quarterback, whether it's Trubisky or Chase Daniel, the Bears defense, they need to give the offense a short field. Otherwise, they can't sustain a drive more than, going half the field to score.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said at the start of the season when I said I thought the Bears would be last in this division. They intercepted close to 30 passes last year, which flipped the field and made it a lot easier on the quarterbacks. Very rarely do you see a team do that twice in a row, Sam.
Yeah, and the Bears are a team that I feel like if they just have a quarterback, they could be such a good team. But the reality is they don't. Whether it's Chase Daniel or Mitchell Trubisky, they just don't have that guy who can take over that offense and actually make a difference for them.
Yeah, and I hate to be a dead horse, but Jordan Howard here would have helped out immensely.
Yeah, a little bit. Having any kind of run game that you just pound it through the Raiders defense would have really helped them out. But they don't have that right now.
All right, so let's just go. We're going to wrap this up with Devlin Hodges, which I never thought I would say on an NFL show. But what's your take on Devlin Hodges as a Steelers fan, Sam?
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, him and Luke Falk with the Jets are both these guys who were on practice squads before the year. Hodges is an undrafted rookie. I'm beginning to regret the fact that Pittsburgh traded away Joshua Dobbs to Jacksonville. I mean, like, I never thought I would have to say any of this during this year, or any point in my life at all. But I think he could come in there. I think he could manage the game. I think we could be close with the Los Angeles Chargers just because the Chargers are struggling this week if Hodges does have to play. But I'm not excited. I'm not excited.
I'm pretty excited. How about you, Anthony?
Excited about Devlin Hodges?
Oh, yeah. I'm pumped up that Devlin Hodges is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The thing that unpumps me is the fact that he was born in 1996.
1996. I was like in the 6th grade at that point.
Really? That makes me even sicker. You know, in 1996, I was like 28 years old. So, I think Devlin Hodges is the man that will lead them to the promised land of 3rd place. Maybe the Bengals can beat them when they come to Cincinnati, 6-3 or something. But Devlin Hodges is a guy that I actually liked in college. I mean, he played at Samford, and I think last year, or I think his last 3 years, he threw for like 4,000 yards each season. So it's not like he is without talent. And I know that his mark for passing yards, which was almost 15,000, broke the previous record that was set by Steve McNair in the early to mid 90s with Alcorn State. So, I mean, I think Devlin Hodges could possibly be better than Mason Rudolph.
Well, I hope you're right about that.
I hope I'm not.
But
then again,
I don't
think much of Mason Rudolph.
Do you think they regret trading away Josh Dobbs?
It's according to if they would have thought Josh Dobbs could possibly be the answer, though, Sam, wouldn't they have kept him?
Yeah, but I don't think they ever expected to get to this situation. So, in a sense, I'm not really upset. When you reach Josh Dobbs, there's not really much of a difference between him and Devlin Hodges at that point. But at the same time, just having the extra option just makes me feel a little more secure. In reality, I don't think it makes much of a difference, though. I mean, at this point, the season's pretty much over. At this point, you're just trying to find a little talent, trying to find a little spark, see what headlines you can generate. Because we can't run the ball right now. And Juju Smith-Schuster's having trouble catching the ball and holding on to it, so I don't know what's going on offensively with us.
Maybe
so
Devlin Hodges is the next Buddy Brister.
Is the season over for Pittsburgh?
No, they're only 2 games out.
True. It feels like it's over. Because
is there any play here for an Eli Manning?
For Eli? Oh,
yeah.
I hope not.
But no, I mean, it's a weak AFC North. It's not like the Steelers are.
And the Steelers have a good offensive line.
Minka Fitzpatrick to upgrade their defense. You bring in a guy like Eli to manage the game and hope Juju and can make a play. You run the ball with Connor. Is Eli better than Devlin Hodges?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably making sense, but I don't – as a Steelers fan, just hearing that, it sounds wrong. But at the same time, I don't know if New York will want to part ways with Eli while Daniel Jones is still at his developmental stages. I don't know what the relationship is there, if they feel like Eli is important to Daniel Jones in some way. But if Pittsburgh does have Pittsburgh does have an opportunity to get a veteran quarterback, then they probably should take a shot.
I mean, what about the 49ers? They have C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins, who are both. I mean, are they upgrades? If you're the Steelers, I would go get
I think
something
Mullins can
better
play, and I think Mullins proved he could play. Yeah, I think Mullins proved he could play. And the other thing is this: with Mullins, you may bring him in and find out you don't have to draft a quarterback next year if Big Ben can't play.
I think Pittsburgh's foolish for not trying to go get a quarterback right now.
I don't think C.J. Beathard's the answer. I would rather have Devlin Hodges. But with Nick Mullins, I would take a shot.
But you see my point.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well take a shot. You're only 2 games out. And if you put this off a couple weeks, it's going to be too late, possibly. Or you'll have one win and you'll still be 2 games out because everybody else sucks in the AFC North also.
Brian Hoyer might be a free agent. Go get somebody.
Not Brian Hoyer.
Yeah,
I would go with Devlin Hodges. Colin Kaepernick.
Again with this Kaepernick.
What? You don't like
It's
Colin
not
Kaepernick?
happening. Right or wrong,
matter.
it's never going to happen.
You know what? Eli Manning going to the Steelers is never happening either, but you brought it up. I didn't bite your face off for it.
But you bring Colin Kaepernick, you find a way to bring him up once a week.
Well, because when I see guys like Devlin Hodges on NFL rosters, it still blows my mind that Colin Kaepernick is not. And when I see guys like Tyreek Hill do what they do and stay on NFL rosters, it blows my mind.
I'm not going to disagree.
Well, that's why I bring it up, because somebody's got to be the lone voice of sanity in this world, and it's me. Ain't that right, Sam?
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you either. Colin Kaepernick probably has the skills to be in the NFL. I think the NFL just doesn't want to risk the PR assessment that'll come out after that, but he would definitely belong on a roster based purely on talent.
Do you think that maybe if Colin Kaepernick just beat a woman's ass, they'd let him back in?
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, then they'll forget about all the other stuff. And you can forgive beating a woman up, but you can't forgive taking a knee. All right, Anthony, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
We have Cam Newton ruled out for Week 6. The Redskins, the Washington Post believes that many in the league are convinced, and that's in quotes, the Redskins will eventually promote Kevin O'Connell to replace Jay Gruden. O'Connell from New England, right?
Oh, yeah, that never works out bad.
James Washington, questionable. Jalen Samuel's going to miss a month from the Steelers. Sam Darnold's back this week. Chris Herndon, who was coming off a suspension, is not expected to play. I think he got gimped up at practice. TJ Hawkinson remains in the concussion protocol. Antonio Brown is going nuts once again, saying to the Patriots to give him a call and re-sign him.
Right.
So that's pretty much it from around the league.
So here you go. Kevin, what was his name? O'Connell. This is his resume as a coach. 2015, quarterbacks coach for the Browns. 2016, just an offensive assistant for the Niners. 2017, quarterbacks coach for the Redskins. 2018, quarterbacks coach for the Redskins. 2019 and now, he's been the offensive coordinator. Pretty solid resume, don't you think, Anthony?
O'Connell never had a cup of coffee with the Patriots? Not even as a player?
He played.
Yeah,
2008, he was on the practice squad for a few weeks.
There you go. I knew he had some kind of tie to New England.
Yeah, but I don't know. To me, it just looks like another guy that's probably not qualified to be an NFL head coach. And the NFL's full of them now, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, I don't know. There was rumors that Washington might go after Mike Tomlin if something happened in Pittsburgh, but I think that's a little ridiculous. I think
Mike
Kevin
Tomlin's
O'Connell
not dealing with Daniel Snyder.
He's not that stupid. Tomlin's not that dumb.
Yeah, he won't do that.
There.
Yeah, there's nothing happening. I have no faith in those rumors at all. That's not happening. But promoting a guy like Kevin O'Connell seems like the Washington move to do. So it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Whatever they do next, it's just Washington. It's going to be a little ridiculous. Dan Snyder's going to want to have the ultimate say no matter what. So,
am I crazy here, or when you fire a head coach, should you just fire the entire staff? Why would you want to keep guys around from the previous regime that failed?
Yeah, it's difficult because I feel like they sometimes believe that, maybe not everyone agreed with the coach. They were kind of just being prodded to go in a certain direction. But I think you're ultimately right here. But you should probably fire most of the people who are in the higher up areas of the coaching echelon within the organization. Because chances are they are buying hard into the doctrine that the head coach pushed. So I wouldn't keep around as many people as Washington has kept around.
Yeah, because they just seem. It reminds me of the old. I used to coach at a high school back in the '90s, and then I left because it was a mess. And then they fired the head coach a few years later and rehired him as like the defensive coordinator, and it never works out because there's always got to be some bad blood there, anyways, if you got fired. And the other thing is, if you're keeping that guy around, maybe he was one of the reasons why that head coach didn't succeed. You know, because if you're Kevin O'Connell, I mean, there's a decent chance Daniel Snyder's been telling him since the start of the year, as soon as we get to 5 or 6 straight losses, you're going to be the head coach. And then how good a job's Kevin O'Connell doing for Jay Gruden?
Yeah, you never know what goes on with the internal politics of this kind of stuff. You don't know if someone stabs someone in the back, per se, or what goes on.
They do it all the time. Football coaches are the biggest backstabbers that ever lived. I mean, if you hire somebody, you better make damn sure good and well that they're on your side. And even if they're on your side, that can change when things go a little bit wrong. But I can speak that from experience. But all right, anything else, Sam?
No, I think that covered it.
All right, guys.
We
will wrap it up. Me and Anthony will be back tomorrow to preview Thursday night's game, go over to NFL news, and we will post a call-in number probably tonight on Twitter. If anybody wants to call in tomorrow, ask any questions or make any suggestions or anything like that. Let's just hope Steve Risley doesn't call in, right, Anthony?
Oh, Steve can call in.
You just said that because you know Steve's listening, and so do I, and I just wanted to jerk his chain a little bit. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you to follow the FF Faceoff at FF Faceoff on Twitter, correct, Anthony?
Yes, you could also follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru.
All right. Sam, do you ever get that Twitter up and going?
Yes, I did remember it. Follow me at Sam_Teets33 on Twitter.
All right, that's Teets, Teets. All right, you can follow The Grueling Truth at The Grueling Truth. Make sure you go check out our Facebook page. Give us a like there. You can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Sam Teets, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.